This just in.
It's time for a news update. I'm really excited to bring you this 49ers news update right here on 49ers Cutback. So thank you guys all for joining me for this one, because the 49ers had a huge game in the second preseason game. It was lots of fun, but with it came some news about several players. And Kyle Shanahan spoke with the media today via conference call, and we got an update on some player injuries. And the big one, of course, is Danny Gray, who was hurt on the opening kickoff in the game, and he hurt his shoulder, and there was fears that it was going to be a clavicle. Of course, Kyle Shanahan said last night that the x-rays there were a little inconclusive and that he was going to go get further testing. And then what they found out was that Danny Gray sustained a SG joint sprain. So no fractures. This is Kyle Shanahan's quote: "No fracture, but we're still evaluating his timeline. We're worried it was a broken collarbone, which is usually about 8 weeks, but it's still pretty bad injury. It's no break, which is good, but it's similar to what safety George Odom is dealing with. So it's still not great news, but it's better than a break." The 49ers do not expect Danny Gray to be ready for the start of the season. With this type of injury being a 4 to 6 week time period, regular season starts in 21 days. It looks like Danny Gray is not going to be ready for week one. So how the 49ers go about this 53-man roster is going to be interesting. Are they going to carry Danny Gray onto the 53-man roster and then try to get him to IR? Or are they just going to try to weather being short? Possibility of 2 wide receivers in that opening game. Could they get a couple of guys in the practice squad and use them until Ray McLeod and Danny Gray get back? It makes it a little bit more interesting, but it is good news for the 49ers overall that, Danny Gray is not out for a long period of time, because the collarbone would have been really bad news, and 49ers definitely didn't want to lose a wide receiver with Danny Gray's skills, and so now they're not going to lose him for longer than potentially 6 weeks. I think they're hoping for 4, but it could be 6. The other one who went down last night was Kerry Heider, defensive lineman Kerry Heider. Luckily, he was just dealing with a stinger. There's a possibility of him missing the game against the Chargers, but other than that, there's also a possibility of him being out there and practicing this week. Stingers, it all depends on how your body responds. As someone who's got a stinger before, they're no fun. But you can recover well. It just has to depend on how your arm responds and those nerves respond. So good news for Kerry Heider. Nothing real serious. Heider will either return to practice this week or shortly thereafter. So he's definitely in the mix still to be a part of this 49ers 53-man roster. Jeremy McNichols, the running back the 49ers had determined was better than both undrafted free agents Ronald Awatt and Kalen Layburn, has injured his hamstring, and he's going to miss a few weeks. What does that mean for a guy like McNichols? It could mean that the 49ers end up putting him on season-ending IR with an injury designation and coming to terms on some sort of a settlement on his injury, because this is what they do with veterans that potentially weren't going to make the 49ers roster, but they have to go ahead and move them. The same thing happened with Taco Charlton. The same thing happened with Daryl Johnson. So this could be the avenue that we see from Jeremy McNichols. They could also just get through the game with the running backs that they have and then just, release Jeremy McNichols and then potentially sign him back to the practice squad once he's healthy. But it could signal the end of Jeremy McNichols being in San Francisco, which is disappointing because I thought he showed a lot of ability in the game, and I would love to have seen him stay on the 49ers practice squad as one of those veteran roles. So McNichols on the move. And Kyle Shanahan had some updates on a few other players as well, which is great news for the San Francisco 49ers because you want to be getting healthy, and it looks like the 49ers are about to get healthy at the right time. Defensive lineman Kalia Davis is supposed to be returning to practice. He pretty much missed the entire training camp. He was there for shirts and shorts, but since pads, he hasn't been available. He was dealing with a hamstring injury. It appears Kalia Davis will be practicing this week, could potentially play in the game. We'll see what the 49ers decide to do there. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw will be back. He had been dealing with a little bit of an injury, but he's going to be back and cleared and ready to practice. 49ers linebacker room gets a huge upgrade. Defensive lineman Drake Jackson, who got hurt right before joint practices with the Raiders, has been dealing with a hamstring as well. he will be returning, and hopefully we'll get to see some snaps of Drake Jackson against the Chargers and see exactly where he's at, because right now I would say Clelin Ferrell's probably got a little bit of a heads up on that starting defensive end role opposite of Nick Bosa. And with that not being finalized yet, that deal with the 49ers and Bosa, 49ers might need Drake Jackson to start opposite of Clelin Ferrell. If they don't work something out, I still expect them to get something done with Bosa, but that's kind of where we're sitting. Javon Kinlaw will be back at practice. He was dealing with an illness. That's why he missed this recent game with the Denver Broncos, but he'll be returning. So the 49ers defensive line depth is definitely on the way up. Tight end George Kittle, who's been dealing with the adductor, he'll be returning to practice this week, so the tight end room will be at full strength. And running back Elijah Mitchell, who is dealing with the adductor as well, he will be returning to practice and hopefully can stay healthy. And we'll see if he gets any reps during the preseason game or if they just wait and get him ready for the first part of the season. But overall, it's good news for the 49ers. The injuries that happened in the game weren't as significant as first believed, and a lot of players are coming back. So 49ers have pretty much dodged bullets on significant injuries so far. They have lost 2 wide receivers, which makes it interesting, and that's something that we're going to be talking about on the channel during the week, is how the 49ers can get creative with building this 53-man roster. I think it's a fun conversation, and we'll see what they do. But thanks, guys, so much for joining me for this news update. More news comes out. Another update will be coming your way. Until the next time, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.